This is my Southern Yellow Pine and bar clamp leg vise that I constructed, sort of off of an inspiration from a J-Bates style pipe clamp vise. It works off the same principle that you're using what is basically a clamp to act as a vise, and just like his, I use a wedge at the bottom to act as sort of a cantilever to push the top in as I tighten the vise, and it works quite well. I use it mostly for small sawing and hand planing operations. It's not what you'd call a heavy-duty vise, but if you're on a budget and you can't afford a big cast iron vise, it does work quite well. I reinforced it with some pine. I'll get into that a bit later when I'm looking at the clamp, but all in all, you can get in the door for less than $20 between the wood and the clamp and have yourself a nice functioning vise. I've always valued function over form, and that's really reflected in this vise, so that leads us to the big question, how does it work? Well, it works great, as long as you know its limitations. It is built from a cheap bar clamp with a cantilever wedge, so you have to remember that you're really not applying over probably 200 to 300 pounds of clamping force, but you're putting it in a small area. So if you're using small stock like this, it works quite well because it doesn't have a large surface area to apply all that pressure to. And here I'm just demonstrating that there's no problem rip and cross cutting, at least with this little Japanese dovetail saw. The piece is held securely and supported well. So this is the heart of the vise. This is just a simple Harbor Freight bar clamp. If I remember right, I picked this up for about 10 bucks. This is a 24-inch clamp. I know they go up to 4 feet, and I believe they have one just a bit smaller at 18 inches, but these 24-inchers are great for a variety of things. You can see there that I took a piece of pine from a 2x4 and ripped it down to a 3/4 inch by 1 inch slat and drove it in there. And that's going to add a lot of rigidity to the clamp, and whether I'm using them for a vise or not, I do this with all of those style clamps. And just like sawing, you can see here that hand planing is no problem in this vise either. It supports the stock well. This is about a 2-foot piece of mahogany that's about 1 inch thick, and it's being held nice and securely. Here's some more saw work shots for you. This next clip that I'm going to show, even though I said the vise was sort of light duty and not heavy duty and not very strong, I think this next clip might surprise you. That's that same piece of mahogany from earlier. And you can see that's supporting all of my weight. For reference, I'm about 205. Fairly impressive for such a cheap clamp. Hopefully these next few shots will give you an idea what this little vise is capable of. I'm just ripping with a variety of saws here on some 3/4 inch material, and it's holding it very nicely. So is this the vise for you? Well, really only you can decide that. As far as $20, it really is hard to beat. I have a $20 Irwin vise that I got from the Blue Big Box store, and it works great, but I can tell you it does not have the kind of holding power that this homemade leg vise does. This thing can handle all of my needs. You can see here I'm hogging off a lot of material. One thing that you'll have to note is that if your workbench doesn't have legs that are flush to the front, you will have to make some kind of spacer board, but other than that, if you have flush-mounted front legs on a workbench, this might be a viable option for you. Well, I hope I gave you something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come back for more. I'm planning on doing a build video in the future, so stay tuned. Thanks again.